If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Wire to Wire, proud sponsored by our good friends at First Racing. I'm your host for tonight, Noah Maher, joined by my regular co-host on Pacific Horse Players, as well as host of the Gallabout over on In the Money Media. He's got a nice glass of red wine as we take you through the Coast to Coast Pick 5 that will be running on Saturday, February 14th. So looking forward to get into that sequence. If you're joining us on the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel, of course, thanks for joining us, as well as the folks over at the Santa Anita and Gulfstream Park YouTube channels, respectively. So thank you guys so much for joining the show tonight. Of course, we're going to take you through a very good Coast to Coast Pick 5. We've got a lot of stuff going on Saturday. It kicks off early with the Saudi Cup, of course, over there across the pond. Fairgrounds got a nice card. Santa Anita, of course, and Gulfstream, some good races that we're going to be talking about tonight. So looking forward to doing that here shortly. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Those are listening platforms. You can go ahead and follow us on our X channel. That's at HHH Racing Pod. We've got regular Power Picks tip sheets that you can go over to subscribe to if you're a subscriber of the Power Picks and the channel. Of course, you know about that. But for those of you that are joining from other avenues, of course, you can find out more about that and go sign up for those at our website right down there, hhhracingpodcast.com. A couple more things to go over. If you're a fan of our network, we've got Weekend Warriors this Saturday. I mentioned the Saudi Cup, big races over there. Saturday morning, we've got a live show starting at 10:45 Eastern. A couple friends of the show, both Davey Lane and Emmett Kennedy, who have been on the airwaves before, as well as the normal. Check those out. And then, of course, another proud sponsor of the show, Daily Racing Form, drf.com. Get your past performances and clocker reports from both Gulfstream and Santa Anita, which, of course, will be covered in this bet. You can go get those at their website, drf.com. Ryan, I saw you, what was that, about 48 hours ago? How have the last 48 hours been for you?
Man, every hour is a good hour. And now we get to talk about more races. And no, I like this. I like this coast to coast sequence. It's going to be fun. We were talking a little bit pre-show about the race selection, but looking through, the Royal Delta Stakes that's going on at Gulfstream, it looks like a 2-horse race. So I kind of like that they did not include that in the sequence, because I think all the races that we're going to go over are fiercely competitive. And this coast to coast sequence seems to always pay a lot higher than the normal parlay would. So that's something that I like.
Yeah, typically you will see kind of a mix and match where you go back and forth between the races in South Florida and the races in Southern California. But with the way that they have chosen the races and made that selection for Saturday, we've got race 9 at Gulfstream kicks it off. And then actually race 12 at Gulfstream will end things out and conclude things in the sequence. And then kind of in that sandwich of races, you've got races 3, 4, and 5 from the Great Race Place. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into those races. And like I said, it starts with this race right here, race 9, 4:20 local time. So make sure you get your wagers in before that. Of course, I've got the great offers with the 15% takeout, as well as the retail player only bet. So obviously great things we'd like to see as avid horse players. Race 9 is a $10,000 claimer going 5.5 furlongs on the Tapeta down in South Florida. Very tough race to get things kicked off. Field of 10, and the morning line favorite is the number 9, Let's Dance Again. Mario Gutierrez, of course, was out in Southern California for a while due to some various reasons, had to move out to Kentucky, and then got down to South Florida. Really found a home these last couple months down at Gulfstream. Been doing very well in this runs in this race for Spats at 3-1. Second choice is the number 6 Happy Ride for Torres and Joe Orsino at 9-2. Let's see who Ryan and I are going with to kick off this Coast to Coast Late Pick 5, and we are pretty much in lockstep. 9-4-1. Ryan, you're thinking similarly, going 9-1-5. I don't know what you thought, Ryan. This was just a pretty good class play for me. Hopefully she's not going to be too far back with a cutback, but seems like she's going to be running on late for sure.
Yeah, she's going to be running on late. Her early pace figures are fine going this 5.5. I think she's going to be, not in contact with the field. She'll be farther towards the back though. But that late kick, and there seems to be enough pace, at least on paper, to set things up for her. I think she's certainly got a class edge to her as she's been facing and winning above this level recently, given it has been going longer. She does have a win going this distance though. Ron Spatz very astute at where to put his horses, and Mario Gutierrez, you mentioned, yeah, he's found a home in the Brian Lynch barn, but he's had a lot of success in other barns as well. Teams up with Ron Spatz here for what I see is the first time this meet, and the first time at least as far as I can be listed on the DRF past performances that we use. So I think Mario is going to have this horse in a good spot and should be flying late.
Yeah, I agree with everything. It's funny. This is actually a reclaim for Ronald Spatz. Don't typically see that often, but I always love that angle. So it obviously it looks like they got her back for what they lost her for. Those two races just a little too tough a company. This is just right where she belongs, and like you said, it should be a scenario where she's going to get enough pace to set things up for up front. So similar in opinion there. You've got the 1 and 2nd, who I respect. I've gotten in 3rd and definitely have on the Pick 5 ticket that we're actually be talking about. We've got AB Secrets for you guys as well as Caveman tickets. So we'll be going through that as our filling of the segment, as we like to call with our best bets. But Chloe's Toy, winner last time, thought was very impressive. First off the claim for Daniel Hurtak.
Yeah, one last time. That was a nice one. She knocks around at this level, as you can see, basically all through her past performances. She's been right here. So they're not getting too ambitious. Daniel Hurtak, I know he's only 2 for 40 at the meet, but in the past 5 years using the DRF formulator, he's 20% with a $2.60 ROI, first off the claim in synthetic sprints. And that's exactly what Chloe's Toy is going to be doing here. I like the move back out to the 5.5, where she's won 5 of 19 races. She has 7 more in the money. She's a hard trying horse, and she's very honest. Those last looks like 6 races are all mid 60 buyers. You kind of know what you're going to get from this 6-year-old mare. So I want to give this one a shot. By no means is the 9 a single in my eyes. I think the 1 Chloe's Toy is a must use on a lot of horizontal tickets.
Yeah, and I think the 5.5, like you said, suits well for her, just because sometimes when you draw the rail in those Tapeta sprints, you're getting that extra half furlong, which can kind of give you a little more room, especially if they get a little spread out. There's some speed in front of her. It doesn't make things super claustrophobic, excuse me. So just from that standpoint, I think she's got a big shot. Obviously, she was impressive winner last time. I'm going to get a little kind of cheeky in 2nd with this horse, Omo 10 Girl. She's one of 2 from the Sweezy barn. Morelos rides back. This is a horse that he claimed 2 back, and it kind of seems like there's a decent amount of speed in here, but there's not really a confirmed front runner. And I think if she does get that lead, she's drawn in a little more inside than she has been, at least this time around on Saturday. I think she could maybe be one that gets a little brave on the front end. She was in that Chloe's Toy race. She was kind of the first one to kind of make that move into that fast pace. You see, they went 21 and 4 for 5 furlongs, so they were moving pretty good. And I thought didn't have much business hanging around, and I thought she fought pretty well in that race, just to only lose by a couple to Chloe's Toy. So she's one where the pace scenario is a little murky as to who's kind of going to get that lead, and if she's able to get it. Obviously, if she runs back to that race 3 back, you see, I think there were 3 next out winners, including the horse that just immediately lost to her in Leprechaun. I thought she had a big chance at a pretty decent number. So she gets back to that. I think she's got a look, and then we'll round things off with the horse that you've got, which is actually the other Sweezy runner. First off the claim for this runner, you've got the 5 and 3.
Yeah, first off the claim, Sweezy. I'm going to that formulator stat again because our sponsor DRF and formulator. I mean, it's a wonderful tool to use. Great. Sweezy last 5 years, 20%, 192 ROI. First off the claim on in synthetic races. Wiggle and Wine drops down the class ladder here. Going to cut the claiming price tag in half. Was up on the lead dueling last time. It was a 5-horse field. Those races can be a little bit challenging, especially if you're dueling up on the front end. Kind of sits up for those horses up in the pocket. But first off the claim for Sweezy with the drop, kind of feels like the money run, at least to me. Feels very purposeful for the spot. Starry Night, common owner line that you'll see for the Sweezy barn. 3 for 6 at Gulfstream Park, has been knocking around and winning way above this class level if you go back to late spring, early summer last year. So I want to use the 5 on my tickets. And your point on the 4, I know she's not in my top 3, but she's definitely on my pick 5s.
Yeah, and Starry Night actually owns both the 4 and the 5. So I think they'd be pretty happy if one of those 2 found the winner's circle. Chuck Brower, thanks for joining the show tonight. He says, happy ride for me off the trainer change, draw a line through the last race. Off slow, thinks she'll be a little bit closer to the pace and first jump on the closers. I know I've got her somewhere in the mix, Chuck. I'll have to figure out kind of where that is, but there's no doubt that this is a very difficult race to kick things off. Did you have any thoughts about her, Ryan?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement on the point of, last time was off slow and could certainly, bounce back on top. Spicy Guacamole came back. Won that race. I thought Spicy Guacamole ran today for some reason, but
actually, I think she did.
I think she did, right? I didn't see it in the form line when I just went and checked, but I swear I was betting Gulfstream today and I saw that horse. Anyway, regardless of that, broke slow last time and going 5.5, going 5 on the synthetic at Gulfstream Park. I mean, you can just basically wrap it up right there. You're not gonna get the job done if you break slow in those sprint races because everything happens so fast. So certainly one that could be closer to the pace. One I will consider using on my tickets for sure.
Yeah, very tough race to kick things off, and another difficult race that we're going to be talking about as the second leg of the sequence. We go out to the West Coast to talk about the second leg of the sequence, and that is race 3 at Santa Anita, which is a 6-furlong turf affair. It's for starter optional claiming horses, 32,000 all the way down to 25,000. This is another very difficult race, only 8 horses, but I thought you could pretty much make a case for about 7 of them. I think I've got 7 of the 8 as part of my ABC ticket, just kind of a weighted all button in a sense. I think the only one I don't have in there is a 7 at 20-1, who would be a bit of a surprise. But when you leave a horse out, that's the horse that tends to win.
Yeah.
Look at our picks up on the screen. Morning line favorites: the Calbred, the number 4, Issa Court for Hector Berrios, and Robert Hess Jr. at 2-1. And those are our picks for this race. And we've got the same top pick again. I'm going 2-6-1, and Ryan's going 2-4-5. Ryan, I don't know what you thought about this race. I do like the 2, but after that, I just had no idea where to go. What do you like about the 2?
Yeah, it's a very deep race. I think if I were to play, I am certainly going to play the Coast to Coast pick 5 because I love that wager. But if I were to play another ticket and press up, this would be the horse I kind of press up. I think this horse could certainly take another step forward, second off the claim. I'm going to refer to Formulator a whole lot during this show. Mark Glatt has a video game stat angle on this one. Second off the claim in sprint races. He is 18 for 43. That is 42%, 550 ROI. I mean, that is those are spectacular numbers. I mean, he is thriving second off the claim here. Steps the horse up off that second place finish last time out versus the claim 25. I think that shows you that this horse clearly moved up and has improved since getting into the Mark Glatt barn. The 5 furlong at Del Mar, you and I obviously know Del Mar well. That can be a tricky surface, and he still ran pretty well to finish second by a head behind Cypress Moon, who was in good form at the time. Getting second, second time in the barn for Mark Glatt's the big angle here, is going to sit a nice trip. You get Kazushi Kimura to stick aboard, and he's done very little wrong recently at Santa Anita. He's been red hot, winning at 20% as well. So yeah, Shangri-Lama's got to be the top pick. Our time form pace projector drew it up perfect. I think this horse is going to sit behind the horses that go forward, and he's going to come flying late.
We've got it as a cluster. It looks like Timeform's got it as a cluster, at least early on in the race, where you've got 2 horses up on the lead and then just a collection of horses within a couple lengths of each other. It's just one of those races where I could definitely see that happening. To your point, I thought her run last time, first time for the barn, was pretty good. She didn't get nearly the same trip that day that Lovin' on the Run got, who is coming out of just a red hot Doug O'Neill barn. I mean, if anybody knows that, it's you, Ryan. But I thought she ran really well to get second, and she was over 4 lengths clear of a couple similar rivals in the rest of the field that day. Just seems like you said, with the stats, Glatt better second time in the barn. She's going to get better, and she looks like she could be suited for a big effort on Saturday. So obviously agree with you there. I've got the 6 in second, who's actually coming out of that same race. I thought she had a little trouble when they crossed the little dirt path that they do when they go 6 furlongs at Santa Anita. Didn't think she got a great trip, but she's going to be one that's coming from off of it if they do heat things up. Then I've got the 1 and third, and you've got the 4 and 5 in second and third, which I think the picks here are pretty indicative of what we think about some of the other runners in here. Issa Court's a classy one. She's 8 now, but got some good numbers. And then the 5 Invincible Molly, another one that's got big efforts at big prices. So what'd you think about those 2?
Yeah, I'll stick with Invincible Molly because we're on that horse right now. Just dropping down. I'm on the 5. Just dropping down from the optional claiming ranks. I mean, back down to the level she was at when she got her last victory at the claim 32. She clearly fits here. Our guy Armando Ayuso is going to be aboard. 5-1 is a very fair price. I don't love how this horse seems to kind of be a little bit of an every other. But again, I think the drop down, I think she's going to find her friends here. I think she still wants to run. She still finishes off some of those races like she's got her mind on racing. So I want to give her a shot here. She'll be on my main ticket. But again, I think for if you're pressing up, or even if you're just playing the one ticket, this is a really good separator leg because people are going to be spready in here. I'll go to the number 4 Issa Court, who is a deserving favorite coming out of those state bred stakes races. Isn't in for the tag here. Should note that is running for the, looks like, I don't know, the waiver, or has optional claiming race. So isn't in for the tag. I thought it was a claim 32 for some reason, but either way, last time out was behind Grand Slam Spile. I mean, that's a wonderful Calbred horse who has been favored in like all of his last 8 races. He's lost, I think, one of them. He's in razor sharp form. There's no beating that horse that day. You can see the blue coated time figures. This is a horse that likes to come from a little bit off of it, and more so down the hill. The horse, I mean, you can see the fractions there. I know they look fast going 6.5 normally, but when you include that is going down the hill, it's really rather slow. We see them fly and go, 21, 43s. So I think Issa Court coming back here second off the bench for Bob Hess, obviously protected, can certainly fit versus this group. First try going the flat 6 since June of last year. One was a disappointing 5th, but I think can certainly get things back going the right way. Hector Barrios sticks aboard.
Yeah, and she's kind of got that versatility where if they need to be and they're not really flying up front, that Hector can be a little closer with her. And like you said, it's pretty promising that at this point in her career, that she's 8 years old. She just turned 8 years old not too long ago. That they could have found a spot where, maybe she's got her best days behind her, a spot that maybe somebody could pick her up and make a little chunk change off of her. But just the fact that they protect her and get her into a spot like this, that I think is going to be pretty well meant. I looked at the 5 too. I mean, I've got her in the mix somewhere. I think the one knock with her is you could maybe make the case that some of her better races are at the 5 furlongs at Del Mar, which is typically not the case with some of these sprinters. Sometimes it's a little bit better to have a little more room to work with, and that tight turn going to 5 at Del Mar can be a little tricky. But just another one of the 7 that I've got part of that ABC ticket that we're going to be talking about here towards the end of the show, so we can go ahead and move on, and we're going to keep things at Santa Anita. We'll just go ahead and move right to the next immediate race down at the Great Race Place, and it's race 4. I believe this is the smallest field of the sequence. It might even be the smallest of the day at Santa Anita, if I'm not mistaken. This is an affair going 1 mile on the main track. It's allowance optional claimers for 20,000. You can see the short field here on the screen. The morning line favorite, slight morning line favorite, and the number 3 stay in line for the Missile Jaramillo, and a new acquisition for Andy Mathis at 9-5. Second choice just to her inside, the very classy Dory Miller for DeMuro, and Leonard Powell at 2-1. And our picks are up on the screen. Same 3 horses, different order. Ryan, I'm 3-2-4, and you are 2-4-3. You've got Dory Miller on top, hoping that a couple of those other runners heat things up for her, and she's going to be running late.
Yeah, that's exactly what I hope for. She's got the stamina going these 2 turns. Your favorite's going to have to stretch out going 2 turns for the first time on dirt, as far back as the form line goes, possibly even farther. And actually, for the first time ever going 2 turns on the dirt, from what I see, that's trying something new as a 6-year-old mare, going off as the favorite. That's enough reasons for me to try and play against her in this spot. I think Dory Miller has some good form. Does have those 15 seconds and thirds compared to just the 2 wins from 32 starts. So maybe has a bit of a tendency not to get the job done. But I do think here, I think there's enough pace on paper. Mirko DeMuro is going to be aboard for the first time on the main track. I think that could maybe make a little bit of a difference. He's a great finisher. So I want to give him give her a look in here. Mirko and Leonard Powell team up very well together. They're 31% at Santa Anita over the past year. So I want to give Dory Miller a strong chance in here. Not a single for me because I have a couple singles elsewhere in this coast to coast. So I am going to use all 3 of these of my top picks here. But We'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, I think if the majority of the people that are going to be playing this sequence, are probably looking to a spot like this to maybe make a single, just because you've got a couple shorter prices and maybe a little more straightforward than some of the other races that we talked about. Definitely more straightforward, I think, than even the first two races that we talked about so far on this show. You do mention she is a little camera shy, but I think it's important to note that if the pace materializes like Timeform thinks, where you've got the 3, 4, and 6 both are all going to really heat things up. I mean, she's definitely going to be in the garden spot just behind him. Obviously, the big worry is that she doesn't like to get it done. But if she is, it could be with a scenario like that. Stay in line, I thought, was going to be pretty tough. I thought she was going to be the speed of the speed. I was a little surprised to see that Timeform had both the 4 and the 6 pressing her on the front end, just because I thought she's been a pretty fast Fildian mare for most of her career. The one thing with her, I know she's stretching out to 2 turns today, and she hasn't done that a lot. But if you look closely at some of the races where she's actually gotten the lead, go back to October, she got the lead going 6 furlongs. I know she got things kind of her own way, but she was able to get it done that day. And the horse that she beat, Crystal Clean's a pretty nice cowbred for John Sadler, I believe, who we saw break her maiden on debut, if I'm not mistaken, at Del Mar over the summer. Go 2 starts prior to that, August 22nd, she found herself on the lead again, was able to beat that field, and that was an open company race versus the optional state breds that she's going to face on Saturday. Just some of those races where she was able to get things her own way on the front end. Granted, she might not get it. I just thought if she was able to secure the front end, she was going to be pretty tough. And again, I got to mention, this is another reclaim. This was actually originally a reclaim for Ronald Ellis, who lost her for 25 and then got her back for 20. Mathis did the same thing, gave her up for 20, got her back for 20. So I thought I would mention that. And Can we talk about Jaramillo? I mean, that guy has just been absolutely on fire. It was a little questionable just how he would do coming into the West Coast circuit, which, is maybe not the best. But you've got some pretty competitive turf riders like Barrios, like Rispoli, Fresu coming back off of his injury. That dude is just firing on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, he is. And, I was part of the kind of conversation when it was talked about bringing Misael out here. And I was asked, do I think he would fit out here? And I was like, look, he's aggressive and he's not afraid to use a speed horse and get that horse to the lead. Obviously he's very versatile, as he's won on every surface, both surfaces and every distance so far. But using those speed horses, using that West Coast speed that's so infamous out here, it's a huge success. I would expect this horse going 2 turns for the first time, having that sprint speed. I would expect to see stay in line up on the front end without a doubt.
You've got the 4 in second, who I think's just kind of, being pretty obvious here. Probably the 3rd most likely winner of the race. Do you think she's going to be able to secure the front end and be a little faster than the 3? Or do you think she can win sitting off of maybe the 3 or 6?
She's shown that she can kind of sit off and win when she won 2 back. That being said, she was just miles the best versus that field. No idea how she was just a couple ticks under 2-1 that day, and no idea how she wasn't claimed, given I guess she was a 5-year-old mare towards the end of the season. But still, came back, ran fine in that protected company, has had a little bit of time off, now back for the Steve Knapp barn. And still protected. So you like to see that. That means this horse is clearly doing well. They could have thrown her in for the tag here, but look, I don't love her, but she is a threat, and she's one that I think could kind of just sit right off of the hip of stay in line as they go around there, and that can make things dangerous if Ayuso moves on the far turn and kind of puts stay in line in a tough spot. So I do think the 4 deserves a strong look in here.
Yeah, I don't love her, but I will say it just seems like one of those races where just kind of handicapping the public. This could be one of those races where a lot of people will either single to 2, single to 3, maybe both in some capacity. And she could be the one where it might not seem like it in the win pool, but just in some of the pick 5 pools, she could be one that I think can maybe be a little left alone and a little disrespected. So if you're able to have her on some tickets and beat the 2 and the 3, I think it's going to, help your parlay going forward to looking to see how she, stacks up to the likes of the 2 and the 3 in there. And Jim Pilares makes up a good point. A couple of 8-year-olds in the in the races that we've mentioned, some that, haven't won since they've been claimed, a couple that haven't won in a long time. The one that we just talked about, Dory Miller, is 2 for 34, I believe, with a bunch of seconds and thirds. So a couple horses in here, even though they're a little straightforward, a little tough to trust. We will keep things at Santa Anita for the last 2 races. This is the penultimate leg of the Coast to Coast Pick 5 on Saturday, and I will go ahead and bring up the Equibase for us. This is race 5, second to last leg of the Coast to Coast Pick 5. This is an allowance group going 6.5 furlongs, state breds going 6.5 down the hill. Down the hill allowance company race. I don't think we see this condition super often at Santa Anita, but either way, this is a very competitive field of 9. Morning line favorite is a tepid 7-2, and the number 1 Infinitum for Juan Hernandez and Mark Glatt. And if you want to hear a little bit more about our opinions on this race, you can go ahead and check out Pacific Horse Players episode 66 that we filmed on Tuesday night. We went a little more in depth in some of the runners that will be participating on Saturday. Let's see who we are going with in this race, and we will kind of be repeating ourselves a little bit because I know both of us feel very strongly about the number 8 Bro, who is 4-1 on the line. Doug O'Neill runner for my boy Armando Ayuso. And I think the kind of headline statement that we were saying, Ryan, is I'm not sure we're getting 4-1 on this runner.
Yeah, not sure we're getting 4-1. I'm going to hope the rail runner takes a little bit of play, maybe a little bit, and we get 5-2 on Bro. That even might be a little bit generous. If I'm betting one horse all day at Santa Anita, it's this horse. That comeback race was great. I know finished third as the favorite behind a runner that we're going to see in here in Gold Council, finished behind Special Club. But going down the hill, a mile is where this horse got, in my opinion, his strongest win in the form. Last time out, or 2 back in the Snow Chief going 9 furlongs, obviously something went wrong, went to the side, came back mid-January in that optional claiming event, was protected in there, and obviously ran a very good comeback race, very promising. You mentioned this is not a condition we see all too often. I believe this was the only one in the condition book as I was looking through. I think Bro is the goods. I don't know what price we're going to get. All I know is my money's going on this horse. It starts the Santa Anita Turf Pick 3. This is going to be my single in the Coast to Coast Pick 5. All of my tickets are running through this horse. And that's not just because I work for Doug. That is because I genuinely think this horse is very well meant on Saturday. And I think second off and going down the hill, both are big recipes for success in my eyes.
And I like him too, and I don't work for Doug. So, there you go. You can see in the replay, he was in the Redham colors there, the 7 that day on January 15th, and he was only ahead off of, a combined half a length, maybe less, off of the first and second place finishers that day. And like you said, Gold Council, we'll see once again in this race on Saturday, just looked like a race that he needed off the bench. Clearly something happened in the Snow Chief. Was actually favored that day. We hadn't seen him since then. That was a long time. That was almost 8 or 9 months that he had been on the sidelines, and he had been working well up to it. But obviously you've got to keep note. I mean, this is a barn that has just been red hot as of late. And I think just the fact that he's able to get that run into him, I agree with you. I think that extra half furlong going down the hill, granted, it doesn't necessarily play like an extra half furlong, is going to hit him right between the eyes. So completely agree with the chances on Bro. Obviously worried about the price a little bit there, but when you're playing the pick 5 sequence, this kind of sequence on Saturday, sometimes in some of those later races, you can rely on the price that you're going to get in the pick 5 more indicative of, or more, on the standards of what you'll see in terms of the morning line. We've got the 1 in second who we can briefly touch on. Another one I think is probably Turf Meant. I did like the way that he finished up in that race last time on the main track, getting on the turf for the first time. The rail's a bit of a dicey situation, so we'll have to see how that plays out. I'm going to use him on the tickets. Wouldn't really be a horse I'd touch on the win end, especially if he's favored. Might not exactly be the case if we see the money on Bro that we think we might see. So he's another factor in here. And then Gold Council, I'll let you mention, as well as any other runners like the 1 or some other, participants in here who I guess could run right back to that number that he ran first off the bench last time for Antonio Garcia.
Yeah, very good. Very well could. Infinitum down on the rail. Also, the only thing I want to mention, Mark Glatt trained the half sibling, Oligato, another good Calbred on the grass. Did do her best running going longer, or his best running going longer. But earned $400,000 as a Calbred. Can't be too upset at that.
No.
Number 4, Gold Council. Yeah, look, Antonio Garcia, small barn, but has his horses well placed. I would say that last out effort was good. The pace kind of fell apart when you look at the race that Gold Council and Bro are coming out of, but I did like the way that Gold Council finished. So I'll include him in my top 3, but he's not going to be on my tickets. Again, all of my tickets are going to the number 8 Bro.
Yeah, I like it. And this is another race that we talked about where you can assert yourself as a bit of a separator just because it's a competitive field. You got a 7-2 morning line favorite and just a race that not a lot of people are going to be, either singling or narrowing down in here. So I do like the pick there. A couple other horses I'll just mention. I've got the 2 in the mix. I got him 3rd. Clever Clover, who was just kind of, in chase mode last time, lost to Irish Royalty, who again is another runner from the O'Neill barn. And another one I think is kind of a little bit better with a target. Problem is he might not get that target. The target could be this horse right here, Billy Joe Shaver, second off the bench and second off the claim for Cesar D'Alba. Blinkers off, but it just kind of seems like in a race that doesn't have a lot of speed. I brought up the time form here just a minute ago. He could be the one that they could come have to catch. And then Checks on the Way, I know Jackson was a bit of a fan of. You toss his last race where, just things just did not go right for him at all. Broke really slow, just got pulled up out of that race, ran a 19 buyer, but some of his races, he looked 2 and 4 back, would be very competitive, if not, one of the races to beat in a race like this. So another competitive race in the second to last leg on Saturday in the Coast to Coast. And that leads us to the finale, which we go back to Gulfstream 4 and is race 12 on the card there. It's the finale, I believe, for the races down at South Florida. I'll get that up on the screen here in just a minute. There it is. This is a $35,000 claimer. We've got the boys going a mile on the turf. Important to note that the rails for the turf races at Gulfstream are at 45 feet. So this race at 45 feet, those rails will be out a bit. For this race, morning line favorite is the number 5, Relámpago Verde for Miguel Vasquez and Bobby DeBona at 2-1. Second choice is the number 3, King de Oro for Edwin Gonzalez and Michael Drombetta at 4-1. Let's see how we're going to get paid on Saturday in the Coast to Coast Pick 5. I'm going 3-5-9, and Ryan's going 2-5-1. Ryan, you've got the 2 on top, but I think in this race, I want to start the conversation with the 5, Relámpago Verde, who pretty obvious that this is a pretty big drop, and just in a sequence like this, you're going to have to figure out what you want to do with him. I initially was kind of trying to beat him. I ended up using him actually on the A line, and we will keep it with him. And I want to hear your thoughts on this runner just because one that fits. I was a little disappointed by his last race. Obviously, the numbers before that, some of his more recent races would completely fit and make him very tough to beat. But again, the question is just you're going to have to decide what kind of stance you want to take with this runner to close things out on Saturday.
Yeah, look, that last out race, obviously the buyer came back a little bit slower for him, but that was on Pegasus Day. You ran behind me, Bago. You had Risk Tolerance in there, a good trainee or a good Chad Brown horse. You had Battle of Normandy for Shug. I mean, that was almost a listed stakes field, if not a grade 3 that he ran against in there. Wally World is a good horse. I mean, he was just way outran in that field, to say the least. So he drops down. Obviously, they've tried him in those handicap races on the grass. They've tried him at the optional claiming ranks now twice, and he's run well. He just hasn't gotten that close to getting the job done. He's never really been a horse that you thought was going to win any of those races, aside from the handicap race 4 back, where he finished just second by a head to Private Thoughts. This seems like a drop down where he's going to find his friends. He's done very little wrong. He gets the blinkers off for this occasion. That might be the reason we saw that, lackluster performance last time out. That was the only race that he's had the blinkers with. And that was his worst race on turf by a mile. So maybe he just resented the blinkers. The blinkers come off now. If he gets back to those, I'll say upper 80 Beyer speed figures that he was running, because he was running 88s, 87, 86, so mid to high 80s. He should run away and hide from this field. There's a couple things that work against him. I would say one is his run style. Coming from off the pace with the rails out that much is not always the easiest task to do. That being said, he's the class of the field. I don't think there's any way around that. So he should get the job done in there, but I think he's a beatable favorite.
Yeah, and he's going to need some speed in front of him. There's no doubt about that. I guess the question is, whether we'll see that from some of the runners like the 2 who you've got on top, and maybe the 7 if they decide to run that runner in here on Saturday. The one kind of thing that kept me coming back was actually the owners. The Ivarones, they don't put on their, fancy skirts and button-up jackets, just to kind of, have a dress-up day. I mean, they want to get their picture taken. So this just, to me, seems like they want to get a win out of this runner. So that was just the thing that kept coming back to me. Maybe a runner that's maybe a little overqualified for a race like this, but just the fact that you've got some owners that are not dropping to get rid of this 6-year-old, I think is an important thing to note for sure.
It is, without a doubt. If I'm watching, FanDuel TV, TVG, or just the simulcast, and I see one of those, I see that flashy suit and that tan, and if I see them, I'm going right to the window and I'll change my pick and I'll bet the living bejesus out of the 5, because I think that's. I think you're absolutely right. I'm happy you brought up the ownership group. They like to see themselves in the winner's circle. They don't really care about a drop like this. The horse has done fine, earning money as well, so it's not like. This is a plunge off a cliff. 35,000 still gets you back a good amount. This is a 6-year-old gelding, has made 250K. I don't know what math since getting into the Bobby DeBono barn, but has done plenty. And then I see you're on the 2 now, so I'll just shift my conversation over there. Another horse that should be forward in here. There's really only 2 pace horses I really see: the 7 and then the number 2 Bay of Bengal. I think. Now, it's a little bit complicated because this one does get blinkers on, and Carlos David in the last 30 days, he is, I believe it's 9 for 26. That's 35% with almost a $5 ROI, which is just absurd. This horse gets claimed off of a race that was meant to be on the grass, faded to a disappointing 9th that day behind a few in here, gets back onto the grass, though, where he clearly does his best running. The issue is when you look at those races 3 and 4 back, he does his best running up on the lead, and the 7 is faster than he is. I do think maybe the blinkers can make a difference. First time blinkers going on here for Carlos David. That's always an angle I like to see, especially first off the claim. That shows, some real intention there to get a change out of this horse. So from the inside post, I think Joe Bravo can kind of control things out of there. If he really sends with some intention, well, I do believe the 7's maybe naturally faster. I do think Joe Bravo with some real intention out of there could send, and the 7's had some races where he's kind of sat from off the pace. He hasn't run very well in those, but I think Joe Bravo should take it to him early, take it to him often, and hope to run them off their feet as they go around there. And if that's the case, I think he's going to be tough to catch.
Well, I don't want to, say something that's not going to be true, but I feel like there could be a sneaking suspicion that the 7 might not go, and very well could be the case with the Runner because he's actually cross-entered. Oh, he's cross-entered today. Do you know if he ran today?
I don't believe he did, but I should probably check that one. So I'll check that one while you talk about the 5, or you talk about the 3.
Yeah. So I thought he would definitely be a big upgrade for me if the 7 weren't in the race. I think the 7
scratch today. So we'll run.
Okay. I just thought the 7 could maybe be a bit of the Achilles heel, but if the 7 doesn't go, I think he'd be a big upgrade. The 3 was the one who I landed on top. I just kind of thought that his last race, I was actually at Gulfstream that day. That was the first time I'd ever been there. And that weekend, primarily the 3rd and 4th, which were Saturday and Sunday, nobody was making up any ground whatsoever. McRaven took him wire to wire. George Briggs was a heavy favorite who was kind of running on late, was a little pace compromised that day. And I thought he ran just fine to get 5th that day. He kind of had to wait around the far turn. George Briggs was the one that kind of beat him to the spot. So Zayas had to wait, follow him, and just had too much to do. Those rails were way out there. I think they were, what's as far as they go, 60 feet, 65 feet?
60.
But they were way out. So obviously nobody was making up any ground either of those days. So just a day that I want to bet some runners that are going to be closing into slow paces and circumstances that didn't work out for them that day. And he's gotten races before that fit. I think the mile 316 is probably a little too long for him. He's kind of way out of it in the race at Belmont at Aqueduct, but that was a pretty good field. That was a nice N1X group that day on October 4th. And I do like the fact that last time he was maybe a little more, into the race than typically we had maybe seen from him. So I'm hoping that might be the case. And Gonzalez is a little more aggressive just because, like you said, if the 2 and the 7 are in the race, it doesn't seem likely that they would hook up. And if the 7's out, then he's really going to be up against it. So he needs things to materialize. But another one I just want to run off of a pretty good speed bias at Gulfstream that day. And then you got the 1 1/3. I'll let you talk about him quickly. I'm going to mention the 9 really quickly, who's just a complete bomb. It's probably going to be 30 or 40 to 1. But what'd you like about this runner and the 10 to 1 on this one?
Yeah, I thought, with the 5 being a bit of a deeper closer and the 2 being a pace horse that could get compromised by the presence of the 7, I thought Global Prosperity is the horse that would sit the pocket. If Bay of Bengal and the 7 fly and go at it early, I think this horse with Castellano aboard just going to be sitting on the rail in the right spot. Jenna Antonucci is a sharp trainer. She should get her picture taken a little bit more often. In my opinion, is on the wrong end of a lot of photo finishes, which is tough. But this horse has shown some of his best races come from just off the pace. You looked at that race at Saratoga in the optional claiming race. That's not an easy race to win. Did it that day at almost 12 to 1 in front of some really good runners. Last time out, I believe that was another day where the rails were out significantly.
Same day, yeah.
Oh, same day. Thank you. Okay, that's what I thought, but I forgot the what day that was. But again, it's tough to make up ground in those races. And Drew, the 10 post was a little bit wide, just didn't really have it that day. In for the 35 here, I think it makes a lot of sense. I know 0 for 4 at Gulfstream, but I think the form says that this horse can definitely get the job done, and I think sits the right kind of trip. So certainly one I'm going to use on my pick 5s.
Yeah, I like it. I don't mind the pick there. He's going to get a ground-saving trip, no doubt about that. Baker Street was a bit of a fuzzy for me. I'm not sure exactly if he can win the race, but I'm going to use him on some pick 5s just in case some of the earlier races are a little chalky or a little more, formidable than I would expect. I just think some of his better races are here at Gulfstream. You go all the way back to that listed stake all the way in June. He lost to Tank, who ran some big races. I know you and Jackson were a fan of him in one of those bigger, 3-year-old grade stakes races at Saratoga over the summer. That was a pretty good race. There's a Chad Brown runner in that race that was pretty good in the spring and the summer, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But just following that race, I thought some of his other races you could kind of make some excuses for. The Simulate race, that's a great field. Simulate ran in some great stakes. I know at Kentucky Downs and that circuit over kind of the Midwest and East side. Saratoga, once again, on August 23rd, went a mile 3/16. He was 50 to 1 in that race. So obviously didn't have much of a shot. Then 3 synthetic races to follow that. I just wanted to give him one more shot at a massive number back on this Gulfstream turf course. He's got a win in 6 starts and he's got a second as well. Maybe more of a bit of an underneath type, but like I said, I've got him on the ticket just in case things get a little more chalky in some of those couple races. And, sometimes when you play this bet, sometimes you just want to get a live to a big number and take your chances. And that you're going to get a big number on this runner on Saturday. So
no doubt. And I like the pick too. Those turf forms definitely fit. And I'm not going to talk you off of a 20 to 1, but you might've just talked me on to using this horse on my ticket. So
appreciate that.
Cost me about $12 or I'll be happy for you.
Appreciate that. So we will go ahead and show our pick 5 tickets. So we've got our ABC grids, which we typically like to do on this show. And we will try to make that a little bit bigger for you guys so you can actually see that. We will go to Ryan's first, and I'll let you talk, Ryan, just a minute or two about the decision making and the thought process with how you graded your horses, lettered them A, B, C, and what the thought process was in trying to make sure you hit a pretty nice spicy pick 5 on Saturday.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, to start off, obviously, you can see my 2 singles come at Santa Anita. That's my track. Also, they come on the turf. That's where I like to do. That's where I typically have my strongest opinions. I'm going 4 deep in the first leg. We talked about, I think, all 4 of those runners, as you had one of those in your top 3 and I had the other 3. And I'm sure we had some overlap in there. I feel like those are the 4 that I want most. In that second leg, I'm going to single Shangri-La. I talked about the fact that it could kind of be that separator leg with how competitive that race is. Initially, I was, I think, 2-4-5, but I did tweak it a little bit as we were, going through the races, just because, and I'll get to it, I wanted to make a little change in the last leg of this sequence. Race 4, I'm going to use those. I'm going to go 3 deep, and I'm going to use those 3 horses that are your top 3 betting choices. Not something I typically do a whole lot of, because I don't love to, lose the equity there, but it's not a race with any sort of consistency. It's a 5, a 6, and a 7-year-old mare. And there's not a whole lot of trust that I have in any of those 3 horses. I do think it's between those 3. I think the 6 maybe scares me just a touch, but not enough for me to use them on the tickets. Then comes my best play of the day. You can see Lone A, no B's. It's the 8 Bro. All my tickets are going to go through that. And then we just talked about this last race, Global Prosperity, Bay of Bengal, and then the favorite Relampico Verde, who could be well meant for the win. I have an extra $12 lying around. I'll toss the 9 in there because the 9 gets back to some of those other runners, some of those previous races over this Gulfstream course. I think could certainly make a good showing of it.
Yeah, I like the ticket. I got a question for you. Just because with the strange nature of how these races were selected for Saturday, would you be looking to maybe play some stuff on the side, or at least, just at Santa Anita alone with some of those races in the middle, like 3, 4, and 5? Because I know you've got the 2 as a Lone A in race 4, which was the race that we talked about. That could maybe be, one of the more, chalky races. Then you went 2, 3, 4 in the Caveman. Could you see yourself maybe playing a straight pick 3 to maybe press up that opinion a little more?
Potentially. I not that this would be a hedge by any means, because you don't hedge with a pick 5, but I'm going to play the early pick 5 there. And I could play an early pick 3 and maybe spread a little bit in that third leg, because I think I have 2 singles in the first 2 at Santa Anita. The Rail Runner for Doug O'Neill, Troisieme Etoile. It translates to third star, so that's what I call her. Third star in the first. The Rail Runner, she was really, heavily bet and well meant in that first one, and maybe didn't get the best ride I've ever seen. In that second leg at Santa Anita, I'll single to 5, and then maybe that allows me to spread a little bit deeper if I want, and then press that up as kind of a backup ticket, because I think the 2 in that second leg of the Coast to Coast pick 5 in Shangri-La is the one where any one of those horses could win. So I think that's the one where I'd want to back up. I have full confidence in Bro. And all the other legs, I'm spread enough. So that's a good question. I think that would be kind of the only way I would want to back things up.
We've got a viewer in the chat. Grappler HK is the handle, but HK is Henry Carson. He says, "What's up, Henry? Thanks for joining the show. I have seen you on the battlefield, my friend, in some of those Twin Spires tournaments. So we like to go back and forth with those, and of course, those are some great things that we obviously participate in. So." I like the pick 5. I think it's a good way to go about things. I'll talk about my pick 5 for just a little bit. You see the Caveman is $36 for $1, and you see that I've got 2 back-to-back singles in terms of the Caveman picks. Now, this is why I asked you that question, Ryan, because I think what might happen is I might spread a little bit more in the pick 5 with the Bro race, and then what I might do is try and play that double to kind of press up Bro a little bit, because I am with you. I do like his chances.
There's a lot of weight on that horse.
Yeah, there is.
There's a lot of weight on Bro.
A lot of little bros on Bro. So we'll have to see what happens on Saturday. But I'll play that double for sure. So just wanted to make sure I had a couple extra dollars on that. And then if things kind of go to hell in that race, I have the 1, 2, and 9 as B's in case Bro is a little disappointing and the weight gets a little too much for him. But similar to you in some of the first couple legs, 1, 4, 9 for me to kick things off. It was either those 3 or a bunch. I've got a bunch of season there. And then kind of the same opinion. I know you had the stones to single him on the Caveman. That was Shangri-La, the Glat Runner, second off the claim. And then I've got the 1, 4, and 6. It's just another race, like I said, where I've got the weighted all button, except the 7, basically. I think the 7's probably the only one that can't win that race. But just, a couple of those first couple races like Gulfstream 9 and Santa Anita 3 that I'm kind of trying to get through. And then the last race, I've got 3, 5, just some of the more classy types in there. And then I've got the 9. Hopefully, I'm alive to the 9. If I've done enough to convince you to throw that 9 on there, it could be alive to a pretty big number. So looking forward to playing this bet on Saturday. And
you and I might have to talk off screen and get a combined ticket because we're pretty similar in some places.
Yes.
So we could combine these and even build on that confidence.
Yeah, and a good buddy, Howard Kravitz, of course, normal host of the show and founder of the pod, said very interesting grids. Appreciate that, Howard. I don't know what else to say there, but speaking of very interesting, obviously very interesting Coast to Coast Pick 5 that we just discussed. Ryan, a lot of fun. Hopefully I will join you, or you will join me on some of these shows in the future. Before we go, Ryan, any final thoughts? Anything you're excited for? Saudi Cup, Risen Star Day, Fairgrounds, Gulfstream Races, Santa Anita. Laurel's actually got a tournament through ExpressBet with NHC seats, on the line. So looking forward to that. A lot of great racing on Saturday, Ryan.
Yeah, look, I'll start it off by obviously the Saudi Cup is something that everybody's going to be looking forward to. Excellent racing out there. I haven't dug into those past performances too much yet, but I do know that Forever Young will be winning the Saudi Cup in back-to-back years. I'm going to take Nisos in that exact. And look, I don't want to bring the mood down, but it's only right to say rest in peace to John Sheriffs. That was some sad news. I saw him last week, just walking around the barn area. Seemed in good spirits. So. He lived a great life. He trained, in my opinion, the best female racehorse that I will ever see, and that has ever lived. And you can debate a wall on that one. Also, trained Giacomo, and that was a pretty funny clip if you've seen the old Ken Rudolph one on TVG where he bet that. So, look, that's a legend from the game, an old horseman that's gone way too soon. So that's obviously a bummer. But outside of that, nothing but good news looking elsewhere. Great racing coming up this weekend on the 14th.
Yeah, Zenyatta was something special. And I know we had the privilege of seeing her, what was that, about a year ago this time?
Yeah.
10 or 11 months. That was pretty
nuts
to go see her at Lane's End. And that was a pretty special moment. I know Jackson enjoyed that because that's definitely one of his favorites, got him into the game. So, sad to see him go, but obviously appreciate the great things that he's done for the sport of horse racing and appreciate the good racing that we've got on Saturday. Like I said, Saudi, Fairgrounds, and a wonderful coast to coast that will be happening on Saturday, February 14th. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. For Ryan, for Noah, this has been episode 7 of Wire to Wire, talking about the coast to coast Pick 5 in that preview for Saturday, February 14th. And until next time, we'll see you guys next week.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.